This section involves solving radical equations, and it's basic algebra, so I think you'll like it. There are a few problems that are a little bit difficult that you will have to factor, but let's start out with these. Anytime you have a radical, you want to undo it by taking all of it and giving it an exponent, whatever the root is. So this is a square root. We're going to take all of it and square it. And then we're going to do the same on the other side. When you do that, this square root and the square cancel out, and you're left with what's underneath of it. And then 6 squared is 36. Now we're going to subtract 1. And divide by 5. There's your answer. Example 2. Before we go through and square everything, we want to get rid of everything away from the radical. So let's subtract the 13 and now let's divide by 2. Now we're ready to take the everything under the radical and square it. Because this is a square root, we will take everything and square it. When that happens, it cancels, and we're left with what's underneath. And 12 squared is 144. Now we just divide both sides by 24. And when you do that, you get 6. Okay, example 3, we have a cube root. Let's do the same exact thing, except for let's subtract the 10 away from it, just like we did in the other problem. We want to get everything away from this radical. And now what we're going to do, instead of taking everything and squaring it, we're going to take everything and cube it, because we have a cube root. So the cube root to a third power will cancel, and 7 to the third power is 343. Okay, over here we want to get everything away from the radical, so we're going to subtract 2. And now, because we have just the radical left, we're going to take everything and put it to the third power, which will cancel. And 2 to the third power is 8. We add 3 to both sides, and we get 11. Now, what if we had a problem like this? We no longer have radicals, we have exponents. Remember that this exponent, as it is right now, is actually a radical. So we have to do, we could either change it now, or we can do something very simple that will get rid of it right away. But first, before we worry about that, we want to get rid of this 2. Now, remember with fractions, the only way for them to cancel each other out is if they're reciprocals of each other. And that's kind of what we want to do. So we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. And whatever that is, we're going to raise the other side to that exponent. So now these we're going to cancel out, and we're going to be left with x. Now in your calculator, you just have to type in 16 raised to parentheses 3 divided by 2. You're going to get 64. Now remember, this is kind of like saying that we're taking the square root of 16 and we're cubing it. So when you take the square root of something, you always have to put something on your answer, and that is a plus minus. So always look at the bottom number. If that is an even number, you'll have plus minus. If it's an odd number, you won't have to include it. All right, we're going to do the same thing. We want to get everything away from this area here. So if we have 1/7, I'm going to multiply both sides by 7 to get rid of it. Now we have x plus 9 raised to 3/2. And 49 times 7 is 343. Okay, now because all of this is raised to 3/2, I have to multiply by the reciprocal. Remember, it's an exponent to cancel it. And 343 raised to 2/3 is 49. And notice that the root that we're doing is a cube root, so we don't have to put plus minus on here. The last step would just be to minus 9. Okay, now there's 3 more problems that we're going to add to the notes, but I want you to come to class and we're going to do these 3 problems together. So as long as you have all of these notes, I think you can start the homework, and then we're going to add these 3 problems later, which will be the second half of your assignment together, because it's a little easier to go real slow with these type of problems. So that is it for these notes.